Hello again, everyone. The Snowman here, and right now I've got my men's 2020 US Open draw preview. Please check out my women's preview as well, but right now we're focusing on the men's side of things. It is a 128-player, 2-week event, the second Grand Slam of the year. And before we talk about all the matchups and players in New York, let's talk about who won't be playing at the US Open. Several top players out because of COVID-19 and travel concerns, and also a couple of players injured. You've got 2019 US Open champ Rafa Nadal. He's not competing. He elected not to travel to the U.S. Number 4, Roger Federer is injured. Gael Monfils and Fabio Fognini not traveling as well. Also, the 2016 U.S. Open champ Stan Wawrinka. Kei Nishikori recently tested positive for COVID, so he's not there. You see the other high-profile players on this list as well. And no Juan Martín del Potro, who just had a third knee surgery this week. So as we pull up the first section of the men's U.S. Open draw, everything begins and ends right now on the men's game with the world number 1, that is Novak Djokovic. And for Joker, he's seemingly invincible right now, 21-0 and counting in the year 2020. Since 1990, that is the second longest undefeated streak to start a season. Actually, Joker has the record. He, back in 2011, started off 41-0, so he's about halfway to that mark, but 21-0 right now this year. Scary good stuff from Joker. He's rolling over guys at Sitsi this week. I'm recording this on Thursday, so he's currently in the semifinals of the Western and Southern Open, but I don't know if anyone can beat him on a hard court right now. It seems inevitable that Djokovic will grab his 18th career Grand Slam title in a couple of weeks, especially with no Rafa, no Fed, and no Stan Wawrinka. Wawrinka has been Joker's kryptonite at the Grand Slams the last few years. He's beaten him 4 times at Grand Slams, including at last year's U.S. Open, so that's another thing in Djokovic's favor. The courts in New York are playing quicker, about 25 to 30% faster, so that also favors Joker, gives him more pop on his serve, and it's not like you can hit through him defensively because he covers so much ground as it is, but maybe the only player in this draw who has a chance against Djokovic is Daniil Medvedev. We'll get to him, but Joker's path, Damir Džumhur in the first round, then perhaps Kyle Edmund, maybe Jan-Lennard Struff in the third round, who he just annihilated this week. And John Isner could be a fourth-round opponent. Big John with an All-American first-round showdown against Stevie Johnson. You can expect 2 or 3 tiebreakers in that encounter. At the bottom, it's a nightmare draw for the number 7 seed, David Goffin. He plays 7-foot American Riley Opelka. Contrasting styles there. Opelka just beat 2 top 15 players at the Western and Southern Open this week in Diego Schwartzman and Matteo Berettini. So although Opelka's knee might not be 100%, if it is, I like Opelka to pull off that upset against Goffin. Favorable draw then for young Denis Shapovalov. He would actually be my pick here to make the quarterfinals. He's one of the players I feel like who is least affected by the lack of crowd. He's always brings his own electricity, his own energy to whatever stadium he's playing in. And Shapo might meet number 19 Taylor Fritz in the third round. Those two know each other well. They were teammates at the 2019 Laver Cup. Shapo is 2-0 head-to-head, though, against Fritz. Both of those on hard courts. And shout out to the 26 seed, Filip Krajinovic, another Serbian. He had a major week headline result this week, dominating Dominic Thiem 6-2, 6-1, had match points against Milos Raonic as well in that match, so a real dark horse. There's no real weakness in Krajinovic's game. Section number 2 starts with number 4, Stefano Tsitsipas. The Greek just continues to ascend, having a great week in Cincinnati, taking out some gargantuan servers in players like Kevin Anderson, John Isner, and Riley Opelka. Tsitsipas at 6'4" is a phenomenal mover, and he's already got a title this year. That was back in February at Marseille. He's playing some great all-court tennis at the moment, and for Tsitsipas, he's got Albert Ramos Vinolias in the first round. Could meet Borna Coric in the third round, and they've never met on hard courts before. 2 guys similar in age and pretty similar in playing styles. I think whoever can push the other off the baseline and take control of that baseline will have a decided advantage in that match. Also in this section, number 2, I spoke about the poor draw for David Goffin, but the same thing goes for number 5, Alexander Zverev. Zverev plays Kevin Anderson in the first round. Anderson, of course, the 2017 U.S. Open finalist, also making the 2018 Wimbledon final, so he's got some big Grand Slam championship pedigree. And for Zverev, he's coming off a loss to Andy Murray, where his second serve just let him completely down yet again. 11 double faults in that match, just 45% of points won off of Zverev's second serve, so some big problems there. That was his main issue in New York last year. I'd make Zverev the favorite for that encounter, but just barely. Overall, I see this quarter as kind of the weakest quarter of the men's draw. Both the 13 seed Cristian Garin and the number 18 seed Dusan Lajovic achieved most of their success on clay, so really not natural hardcore players. I could maybe see a breakout run from the 24 seed Hubert Hurkacz, perhaps Jordan Thompson, but I think we get a random player that we don't expect to make the quarterfinals from this section. Stefano Tsitsipas has to absolutely love this draw. In quarter number 3 now at the bottom, the 3 seed Daniil Medvedev, and I said before, I think Medvedev is the only player with a legit chance of beating a 100% healthy and locked in Djokovic in a best of 5-set match on hard courts. That's because Medvedev played Joker in a really tight 3-set match back in January at the ATP Cup. I think that Medi has a lot of similar aspects in his game that Djokovic has in his. The Russian puts nearly every return in play, gets a lot of balls back, and at 6'6", his reach is unique. He can really stretch and get his racket on a ton of balls. Decent pop on the serve, flat ground strokes, and he's got the endurance too, the stamina to go 7 rounds. We know about that epic, that classic 5-set final he played at the US Open last year, losing to Rafa Nadal. But Medvedev, he's got to like his chances. I imagine he does get back to the final in 2020, although first-round opponent Federico Del Bonis, trickier, tougher than your typical first-round opponent at a Grand Slam. A couple of first-round matches I like in this group. We've got number 14, Grigor Dimitrov against the American Tommy Paul. Those are two of the coolest guys on the tour. Plenty of weapons for each man, and I could see a 5-setter there. Also in the first round, number 10, Andrei Rublev against Jeremy Chardy. That is youth versus experience. Rublev started the year 15-2, titles in Adelaide and Doha, but he's lost his last couple of matches. Both have been to the Brit Dan Evans. So if Rublev, gets back to his winning ways, it might put him against the number 6 seed Matteo Berettini in the round of 16. And Berettini defending a lot of points at the US Open semifinal run last year. Last summer was his breakout moment. I don't know if he's going to love the fast courts, though. He did get upset by Opelka this week, and he's a below-average mover. Berettini will find it very hard to defend, so that's going to be tricky. I think Rublev actually makes it to the quarterfinals here. And one other player to watch in section number 3 is Marton Fucsovics. He could meet Dimitrov in the second round. They just played a few days ago, and Fucsovics actually pulled off the upset, won it in 3. A very hard-hitting baseliner, so physical. Grigor's going to have to get creative to win that, because otherwise Fucsovics can really grind you down. The final section then of the men's draw, let's talk about the number 2 seed Dominic Thiem, who had a miserable showing at the Western and Southern Open this week, getting bounced in the first round to Filip Krajinovic 6-2, 6-1, just never got started, and the aforementioned quicker court conditions in New York may have played a big factor in that. Thiem is not a player who likes to defend. He's not necessarily a plus mover. He's a guy who, when given time, can absolutely blast you off the court with indefensible ground strokes. However, he does need time, so these quicker conditions are going to be tricky for him. It's not like Thiem can't win on hard courts. He just made the Australian Open final this year, won Indian Wells last season, but again, it's those quicker conditions that will not do the Austrian any favors. However, the good news for him, a seemingly innocuous first couple of rounds for Thiem. How about number 31, Marin Cilic, though, potentially in his mini section? Cilic has made some deep runs at the US Open, including lifting the trophy back in 2014. Cilic would actually be my favorite if he ends up meeting Thiem in the third round. A trio of other informed players in this section. You've got number 8, Roberto Bautista Agut. He's currently in the semifinals of the Western and Southern Open. Tremendous flat ball hitter, that forehand, his big weapon. But wait just a minute, because Roberto Bautista Agut playing Tennis Sandgren in the first round, and that is a feature match because Sandgren 5-2 all-time in Grand Slams against top 20 players. He's a big match guy who is coming for blood there. The American coming off a nice win versus number 15, Felix Auger-Aliassime, who's also in section number 4. And then two other guys who've got great shots at the semifinals here. Number 11, Karen Khachanov, and number 25, Milos Raonic. Both guys blistering the ball right now. Maybe Khachanov not so much because of this draw. He's got the exciting 19-year-old Jannik Sinner in the first round, potentially Sam Querrey then in the following round. But Raonic is serving up bombs at the moment. He gutted out a gritty 3-set win versus Krajinovic a couple of days ago, and he's got the major experience to make a deep run. Also look out, another guy with major experience, Andy Murray. Wouldn't shock me if he causes a couple of upsets. Don't think he'll win the title, though, because of the physical endurance, the stamina needed. But Murray is lurking. As for my overall predictions, I think my 4 semifinalists, I would say Milos Raonic, Daniil Medvedev, Novak Djokovic, and Stefano Tsitsipas make the semifinals, and give me Djokovic to win his 18th career Grand Slam. All right, so thank you so much for watching my 2020 Men's US Open preview. Check out my Women's preview as well. And if you enjoyed this, want more tennis content, please subscribe to the Snowman Sports Media. I'll be back real soon. Thanks a lot. Cheers.